Hello and welcome to Zerocarbonista Series 6, The Cow in the Room. I'm Ian Collins, and this is your number one go-to environment-based podcast. If it's green, it's in. And for those who are watching the visual version of this, Dale, big apologies that I happen to be dressed like a vicar.
Yeah. Well, it's nearly the weekend, Ian. You could do what you want.
That's very true. Yeah, like it's some kind of proclivity on my part. Who knows? I mean, let's talk about your week.
Because last week it was a grey wig, and today it's like...
Last week was a grey wig. This week it's the vicar. Who knows what kind of strange...
The secret life of Ian Collins
will happen. Will you need some ecclesiastic help tomorrow because you're off to the High Court again?
Yeah, and no.
Good.
Yeah, I'm going to be holding court outside the court. So the judge is handing down the divorce decision about 10:30 tomorrow. I'm going to be outside talking to the media about the result. Been unable to talk about it until now, or until then. As I speak to you, it's tomorrow. But I can talk about it because this doesn't get published before tomorrow. So, I mean, it's a total vindication of my approach to this whole unfortunate divorce thing that's turned into a hideous nightmare by my ex and her lawyers. It's been a 4-year battle that's cost millions of pounds, and she's going to walk away tomorrow from the court with £12 million less than I offered her 4 years ago. That's just how f***ed up it is.
So you know that already, do you?
I know that, but I can't talk about it publicly until tomorrow, which will be it'll be fine by the time anybody listens
so they give
to
you
this.
they give you the stuff in advance.
Yeah, I got it about a week ago.
Okay.
It might be 2 weeks anyway. Who knows or cares? And I'm going to call for a reform of the law, actually, because I think it's wrong. This was like a show trial. The other side threatened me with it. They said, we'll, take it to the High Court. We'll embarrass you in front of the media. We'll, blah, 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 unless I paid them silly money. And I just think that they should face consequences for having failed so fundamentally, failed themselves. They failed their client. I mean, they've wasted court time. There's nothing right about it. These fellas chasing fame and fees to the disregard of everything else. I think there should be a law against it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The other thing there should be a law against are High Court decisions on a Friday. And the reason for that is very simple, because it means you can't appear on Mike Graham's show on Talk Radio because you're at the High Court. And had you appeared on the show with Mike Graham, you would have been, you would have put a challenge to Mike.
Yes. Well, I've put a challenge out on social media, and my challenge is to him, like, it's halfway through Veganuary. I know it's the month, and I know you're not a fan of it, but why don't you join in? There's only half a month left. Go vegan for the rest of it, and I'll pay a sum of money to a charity of his choice. I've not had an answer yet, but I did get an invite to go on with him tomorrow, but I'll be on a train, so I can't do it.
So you can't do it.
So really,
but I think you should still pursue that, because I think, the one thing I know about Mike is that he's probably the most adventurous guy with food. So I don't honestly think he wouldn't balk at the idea. He wouldn't be one of those like, it all tastes of shit. He wouldn't be in that department. So you wouldn't have that particular, but he would go, actually, I eat at some nice vegetarian restaurants anyway, so that's good. And the vegan thing, I reckon I could give it a go.
I reckon you might be right. I was going to offer him some of our Devil's Kitchen burgers as well when I get the chance. Maybe I'll get on a show next week when it's all it's all much quieter. But linked to that, of course, there was this lovely milk story, wasn't there, locally?
The milks. What's happening with the milk? Because we've got a council that have now apologised because they didn't mean to cause offence over the milk after they suggested that councillors could use a bit of non-milk milk.
Well, residents.
Residents.
Yeah, residents of our county is like 700,000 people in Gloucestershire, and somebody made a very sensible comment that you could consider, it says, using alternatives to dairy milk, but some local farmers got up in arms about it, and
you can't take our milk, they said.
they felt they had to apologize, which is like, I think it's ridiculous because it's sensible advice. We know that the milk isn't nutritious food as is claimed by farmers in the farming industry. There are problems with milk, not least what we talked about a few episodes ago, didn't we? It's not just the white stuff; it's the yellow and brown stuff as well that's in milk. Pus and poo. In case anybody missed that episode, I don't want you to miss out on the knowledge that this
just
stuff
Google
is in
pus
milk.
and poo, and you'll You'll find.
Yeah. And I mean, keeping it local, because I can't see it on the list. I did a lovely interview with ITV that went out yesterday down at Eco Park, Junction 13 of the M5, where we're trying to build the all-wooden football stadium, the Green Tech Business Park, and a training ground, because we just won an appeal against our slightly bonkers planning department, who refused permission for us to put a tent up in a field. Oh, it's a marquee, actually, so it's a big tent, but they refused it. They said this field would be harmed. The visual appearance of this field would be harmed by the tent. This is a field that's penned in by the M5 on one side and the A419 on the other side.
Right.
And the inspector just rubbished their claims and gave us permission. So I was down there to kind of celebrate in a way, but also bemoan the fact that we've been 10 years in planning for this project, but blimey, it's moving ahead now, because a couple of weeks ago, we got full permission for the stadium after 5 years since we got outlined. We just got permission for the tent, and the business park itself could well be consented by the summer. And I think we'll start building down there in the summer if we're lucky. And that's super exciting.
It is. So, just clarify though, the tent. What's the tent? Is it like Billy Smarts or something? What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah, so, I mean, we've been training in Chippenham, which is another county, like a half an hour drive away, and we put up a big tent to build a gym to have a better facility for our players, and we wanted to move that tent to the training ground after we built 2 amazing pitches, and the council said, "Nah, Gov, that'll harm the look and feel of the place."
Next to the M5.
Next to the M5, yeah. So, but they've been making some bonkers decisions, and the appeal inspector threw it out, and he threw out all of the proposed conditions and said, "Don't need that. Just get on and do it." So, pretty happy with that, and it really opens the way to all the other things we need down there, like showers and toilets and stuff like that. Anyway,
well, as my old nan used to say, trouble is with those councillors; they can be a right bunch of.
I had a feeling that was coming.
That was always the wisdom she imparted on planning issues. Shall we move? Shall we move to a bit of right wing nut? Because we've got Mr. Farage and Ms. Truss, who have found themselves launching a US climate denial group.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's the British arm of Heartland, which
they're called,
Heartland, and they've taken oil and Republican funding, and they basically campaign that climate change is not real; it's a hoax made to impoverish the West and stuff like that. And I think I want to say they also campaign on the issue that the Earth is actually flat, but that would be only a slight exaggeration.
So Liz Truss, apparently she's going to the presidential inauguration, I heard.
Yeah, well, I mean, why not have a bunch of nutters together?
The trouble is somebody said to me, be careful if you ever get invited to a presidential inauguration, because firstly, you're sat about 3 miles away. Secondly, you've got to be there about 10 hours before. And believe me, it ain't that warm in Washington right now. So it might look, when you get the little gilded kind of invite through, wow, I've been personally invited by the president-to-be. Until you get there and you realize your nuts are frozen off by 4:30.
And slightly more worrying, there's a current Tory MP at the launch of this new nutty group in Britain, and Farage and his Reform chums.
Yeah, Andrew Griffith, his name is. Me neither.
No, in Parliament, Parliament, they're calling for new coal mines and the scrapping of climate targets. I mean, come on. Where are they coming from, these people?
Well, here's another one that you might find interesting. The headline is this: build more roads to hit net zero, MPs are told. Infrastructure czar urges ministers to prioritise drivers over rail passengers to help relieve pinch points.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? I mean, that sounded like some kind of mad metaphor when I first read it. I thought, we can get there faster if we build bigger roads. We can drive faster towards net zero. But I'm speechless. We need better public transport, not better roads.
But if we've got better cars now,
yep.
Does that mean, once, let's say everybody's driving an electric car, does it then become legit to campaign for more roads?
Well, it is way better, isn't it? So maybe you're right. Maybe I need to update my mindset and say, look, roads aren't that bad. It's possible. It happens periodically. I mean, at the moment, it's just a fraction of cars on our roads that are electric.
Yeah.
So we've got a little way to go. But come the day, why not?
Yeah, but I suppose it could still be argued that public transport would be more efficient, even if you did everyone did have an electric car. It'd be far more efficient and a much easier thing to do.
It'd be more energy efficient for sure. And
you
therefore
think so?
carbon efficient and that kind of stuff. And, it's a good thing as well, because busy roads, they're a bit of a kind of menace, aren't they? I mean, I'm not a fan in towns and cities of the kind of priority that we give to traffic. It's changing now. There are lots more pedestrian zones and kind of control of traffic. But, blimey, when did it become a thing that if you're in a car, you just got like a priority over everything and drive right through the middle of everything? It's not good for the way that we live.
No, it's not Ben-Hur. You're not in a flipping chariot, mate. It's just a car, fella. Calm it down. Here's a question from Hannah who says, Dale, we just mentioned Veganuary. Do you still think it's of a lot of interest, says Hannah, or has it worn off? I've been a vegan for a decade, but fewer friends and people at work have said they are trying it later this year. Do you think this is down to more people being less afraid of plant-based meals?
More people less afraid, but fewer people are trying it. Is that what the question was?
Yeah, I wondered that. To be less afraid of plant-based meals? Would they be more afraid of plant-based meals?
Yeah. So I dug out some stats anyway.
To answer this question both ways.
Well, no, because I really just realized it's a confusing question, but I can't even find the stats now.
But so I wonder whether some people might go, loads of people are doing the vegan thing now, so I don't have to.
How weird. Because it's never been like one of those collective things like recycling, is it? Like, if we all recycle together, we make the world a better place. It's never really been like that. Well, look, anyway, we asked our friends at Veganuary, and they said over the last 3 years, participation in the month has quadrupled. We tried to get an update for the month so far, but they don't have the data. But I think the first thing I'd say is participation rates are far from falling. They're doing the very exact opposite. And I think they're probably doing that because, second part of the question, people are less afraid of a vegan diet. It's become less of a cult thing. I think so. So maybe the question was just written badly and it meant, are we getting more participation because people are less afraid? I don't know.
Yeah. Was that the police arriving again?
Yeah, fuck, honestly, I can't
mention
keep them
vegans.
away.
The old bill show up. It's an online non-crime hate crime. Raf says, Dale, a mate at the local tried to persuade everyone that windmills are a Chinese net zero rouse to bankrupt the West. How do you fight turbocharged nonsense like this? So they're getting everybody to buy windmills and solar panels, and then they'll go, look what we've done. And then they plug in their coal-fired things.
To bankrupt the West, it says. And look, it reminds me of a favorite cartoon. I've got it on my desktop somewhere. There's a guy, he's at a UN meeting. There's a big board behind him, and there's a list of these great benefits: clean air, clean water, and some big economic boost or something like that. Yeah. And he says, in his speech bubble, he says, what if we find we get to net zero and it was all a hoax? And behind him are all the benefits we've accrued in the meantime, right? What does it matter, actually, if net zero is a hoax, if we get clean air, clean water, and a stronger economy?
Yeah. Christopher Hitchens, the writer, and nobody could work out whether Christopher Hitchens was left wing or right wing because he just sort of spoke from the heart, and he had a very incredibly powerful, very mesmeric voice. Oh. Highly educated, made Stephen Fry look like a moron. One of those guys. He used to make exactly that point. We haven't got a second chance here, so take it.
Yeah,
and it improve things on the way, even if it's not about the end of the world.
That was the point I was trying to make. Like, there's no downside to doing this, right? Yeah. Even if, and I don't believe it has, the threat of the climate crisis has been exaggerated. Even if there's no downside here, because we get stronger economies, more jobs, cleaner air, clean power, energy independence, and a host of other benefits as well. So, it's like I'm speechless. But it's like Father Christmas. What if he's not real? Shit, we still got a load of presents.
Yeah, that's very true. There you go. Doesn't matter. Climate change whiplash. What's going on here?
I love it. I haven't heard this term before. It might be new, but I just love it.
What does it mean?
It's like a ping-ponging from one extreme to another, from extremely wet to extremely dry, to catastrophic fires, to floods and that kind of stuff.
We had a question about that as well, about the fires, from Simon, who says, what do you make of the LA fires? Is this purely down to climate change, or is there a lack of planning and preparation that hampered things too? I mean, there's a bit of a... Some people say, actually, on this occasion, it wasn't climate change, but I've heard other people say that it absolutely was.
Well, I think it's a combination. There are planning issues in some of these crises, and the planning issues make them worse. But actually, they're triggered by the climate crisis in the first place. So you've got really a very potent combination, and we're seeing planning problems where we didn't see them before because of the climate crisis.
Can we talk about Sizewell C?
I would love to.
Yeah, this thing has doubled since 2020. What is happening here,
They
Dale?
have a habit. They have a habit of doing that. So we put out a story in the last week or so, and it's been really successful. We wrote a letter to the government's new value for money office. We wrote to this guy and we said, we don't know if it's in your remit, but given your remit is value for money, I really think you should look at Sizewell and at carbon capture and storage because they're vast sums of money, and we believe they're not value for money. And at the same time, we said, look, Sizewell, for example, was meant to cost 20 billion. It looks like now it's going to cost 40 billion, and it was meant to be ready, 10 years ago. It looks like now it won't be until 2040, 10 years after we're meant to have reached 100% green on the grid, begging the question, what's the point of Sizewell C? And the press picked it up and ran with it. There's been an audit report from some arm of the French government that have basically endorsed the 40 billion cost. British government has said they don't recognize it. They've also told EDF to rein their horns in, get their act together in France before they commit to anything abroad, throwing further doubt on Sizewell C in Britain. So, I do think it's a terrible waste of money. I think Hinkley is already very late and very over budget, but we've spent so much money we should finish it, and we've got a bunch of nukes already running, and we should let them get to the end of their lives while we make the transition.
Question from Jim before we get on to X-Rated Corner, who says, I remember back in the early days of this podcast, you mentioned you played Fortnite to chill out. Do you still game?
I haven't done for a really long time, but I mean to. Actually,
but Fortnite in particular.
Fortnite, I haven't played it for a very long time, but it's, as I recall, it's great fun. Really, really absorbing and intense. Look, and
I've got a voucher for some V-Bucks here. If you,
I'm not in need of any V-Bucks.
You can get some new skins.
Yeah. I play with the standard ones because I'm not that fussed.
Yeah, I get that. X-Rated Corner. Janie says, just seeing Dale Vince's name is enough to give me nightmares. Oh.
Yeah, well, excellent. I'll pop round.
Yes.
On your door.
Ooh, bang on your window. That sounds sinister, but take the point. Charlotte Gill, who's the journalist person who seems to follow you around a bit. Dale Vince is best friends with Chris Packham. Isn't that like saying at school, Dale loves Jemima, pass it on? Isn't it one of those?
It might be Charlotte, in which case you need to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what the point is. I mean, Chris is a good friend of mine. So actually, what we have here is something really exceptional. It's a fact from X-Rated Corner.
Here's another one. Why does Dale dress like a stoned art student?
This one made me chuckle.
Show me your pastels.
I thought to myself, oh shit, that's what's been going on. I had a puff and now I look like this, but that won't be my actual answer. I couldn't quite explain what I was thinking, but so I'll do a different answer.
I kind of, on your behalf, not that you need it, I kind of don't get the art student thing. Because that would suggest, you'd have pencils and brushes for a start, and maybe some paint on your shirt from your last thing.
Yeah, who knows? I like to think that I have a. No, I don't want to even say that. What shall I say? I would say, look, I'll just say thank you. Actually, I think that's probably a compliment. Thank you.
Nothing wrong with art students.
Absolutely, or being stoned. Dare I say that?
And Christo 4982765321294836 says,
Nah, you made that number up.
Sort of. Okay. Says, Just Stop Oil is funded by Dale Vince, the multimillionaire. He invested in gas and oil and provided renewable technology to BlackRock for the 4,000 acres in Norfolk via his German tech company, supposedly. Now, I don't even know where to start on that, Dale.
What happened here, the way I see it, is he took a bunch of conspiracy theories and a blender, and he made this little soup out of it.
There's literally nothing true in there.
And there's no sense. There's nothing true. My name is right. I haven't invested in gas and oil. I've not given anything to BlackRock.
You don't own a German technology company?
And I'm not operating 4,000 acres in Norfolk. So I'm
you
guessing...
don't give money to BlackRock?
No. So it's crazy.
They don't need anybody.
Oh, it looks like it's directed to our good friend Julia Hartley-Brewer. This little tweet.
Right. Okay. So somebody was telling Julia about you. Like they were trying to snitch on you. And they thought the best way to snitch is just to make shit up.
Well, she's probably, feeding Julia her favorite food, which is made up shit. I wonder if she even ran it on a radio
So what?
station.
You see, the thing is with Julia, she would have defended that. Defended you.
Really?
She would have jumped to your defense.
Wow, that would be worth seeing.
Yeah. I think we should have a word. Get her on the podcast.
Well, steady.
Dale, we're out of time.
Oh, damn.
But we will speak next week. Don't forget, of course, you can follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince, and on TikTok too.